guys, let's have a bit of a chat about boundaries. Boundaries are a really, really vital component and extension of self-love, self-care and self-nurture. Your boundaries or lack of boundaries kind of state the standards, your standards, the requirements that other people and that you need to meet for them or you to be able to interact and to have a relationship with yourself. Your boundaries are like, and they can be energetic and very physical in the way that you physically bring yourself to life, and we'll discuss both of those components of the boundaries, but it's like saying, this is what is accepted here and this is what is not accepted here. And those boundaries, those rules, those standards will adjust themselves depending on how highly you hold yourself in regard, how highly you consider yourself, how much you have love for yourself or how much you don't have love for yourself. And I'm sure you guys are going to be able to relate with this, if not on a personal level, then in ones that you've seen outside of you. A person who doesn't care for themselves very much and doesn't have a lot of self-love tends to be a bit of a doormat. So they end up in a position where it's like, meh, I don't care enough about myself to say no, or to say that that's not appropriate, or to let you know that that's not okay, or to demand that you treat me in this way, or that you meet me here on this level, so anything goes. And that's dangerous, because not only is there not self-love, but you're not commanding any level of respect. There's no self-respect, but there's no respect from the external environment that's demanded either. And when that happens, people have a tendency to, if they don't feel that they can't go there, they have a tendency to kind of push those boundaries and to see how far they can go and what they can get away with and how much they can take and how much they can dump before something snaps and before those boundaries and those, no, that's not okay, conditions kind of come into place. So if you don't have that self-love that we've been talking about and discussed in previous videos, and as a result of that self-love not being there, you also don't have these boundaries in place, then what you're going to find is that the people around you are going to tend to take advantage of you, physically and energetically. And again, we'll talk about both of those components. But they're not going to feel that there's nothing that they can't get away with you. So they'll tend to just demand whatever they want and treat you however they want and not expect you to have any kind of a response or any kind of a, hang on, that's not okay kind of reaction to what they're doing. So they'll take advantage and they'll suck energy and they'll take resources and they'll energetically and emotionally, mentally, physically dump on you as well, because you're not saying that, hey, that's not okay and that's not acceptable. And you're going to find that you're not treated very well. And the antidote to that is, again, it's that self-love, it's that self-respect. It's you respecting yourself and loving yourself enough to recognize your own worth and what it is that you deserve from yourself, but from your external environment as well. And when you begin to really develop that self-love, I mean, again, for some people, it seems like it's selfish to have boundaries and to say no, and it may seem like it's conditional rather than unconditional love, but it's not. It's actually a very healthy and very appropriate extension of you loving yourself and you caring for yourself and you realizing that there's a certain level of love and respect that you deserve from those around you and from the environment itself as well. And that's a wonderful thing when you can begin to care about yourself enough and care about yourself in a way that enables you and allows you and encourages you to go, hey, I actually kind of feel like maybe I deserve for people to respect me a little bit, or to treat me like I'm a worthy kind of person, or hey, I don't feel that it's okay that people just walk into my house and help themselves to my food and walk out again without even saying hello to me, or that people come into my sphere and emotionally dump on me and then walk away, leaving me feeling really rubbish. Maybe that's not okay. And it begins to kind of seed this respect that then grows and develops into, wow, okay, these are the boundaries, these are the standards, these are the requirements that people need to meet in order to relate with me, and in order to have a relationship with me, and in order to kind of communicate and energetically, physically be in any kind of an exchange with me. And that can be something that you can consciously kind of work out. If this is very new for you and you haven't really considered boundaries before, you may need to spend some time sitting down and going, okay, so these are the ways that people are treating me, or this is how I feel when I'm out in the world, or this is how the environment reacts to me, and this isn't okay, this is okay. I would like to be treated like this, and not from an arrogant kind of place, again, just from a self-loving kind of place, like, wow, I actually deserve to not be shouted at by everyone that walks past me, or I deserve not to be taken advantage of, because I'm actually not a really terrible person, and I'm worthy of love just as much as everyone else is worthy of love. And you may need to sit and work those things out to start with. This is appropriate, this is not appropriate. And as you begin to kind of practice that and begin to maybe start saying no to some things, start to kind of stand up for yourself a little bit, not in an overpowering or arrogant kind of way, just in a, hey buddy, that's not acceptable. I wouldn't treat you like that, or would you like it if I treated you like that? Please don't speak to me like that anymore. This is how we're doing things from now on. Then even that, the practice of boundaries and developing those standards and that kind of rule book for interaction and engagement, then that can also fuel and light a fire under the self-love as well, because through those actions, through that change of behavior, through that different way of interacting with your environment and that different way of commanding that your environment interact with you, you begin to develop self-respect when you're not constantly being trampled on and constantly being dragged down and constantly being told that you're not good enough and you can't do this and you never do this right and your love sucks and what are you doing and get up and why are you always like that and those things that people just do when you don't have boundaries to say, hey, that's unacceptable. Then you begin to care for yourself a bit more. You begin to love yourself a bit more. You begin to see yourself in a different light, because if you've never had boundaries and you've never practiced saying no and you've just taken whatever it is that is thrown at you, whatever it is that you can get, regardless of what it is and regardless of where it comes from, then it's not surprising that your self-worth is going to be quite low. It's not surprising that you're not going to be able to see the qualities and the strengths and your worthiness and your deserving, how deserving you are of love and how deserving you are of respect. So as you begin to change these behaviors, that self-love is going to flourish and it's going to grow and it's going to develop. And then very naturally, as you keep practicing this, and again, consciously, you may need to very consciously practice this for an extended period of time before it's almost like the self-love begins to take over. And the self-love becomes so prominent and so seeped through all of your being, and so you're so consumed in that love on every level that the self-love becomes kind of self-regulating, and the self-love, that respect that you have for yourself, then very naturally begins to send messages and relate with your environment in a way that, like, it's almost like energetically you're proclaiming what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. And people will begin to respond to that, and they will have to respond to that, because when they are attempting to violate those boundaries, when they are attempting to put something into you or make you take or receive something that you're saying, I'm not receiving that to, whatever it is that they're trying to put into you, that they're trying to inflict on you, or they're trying to direct at you, if you're just going, nah man, I love myself too much to receive that from you, or to take that seriously, or to take that personally, or to make that mean anything about me, then whatever it is that they're sending your way is going to be constantly being sent back to them, because there's nowhere for it to go. If you have those boundaries and you have that self-love, then even if someone's screaming at you in the middle of a shopping centre telling you that you're horrible and that you're ugly and that you get in everyone's way and what's the point of your existence, if you are full, if you're filled with self-love and your boundaries are in place, then no matter what it is that they're throwing at you, you know that it's not true, because you know that you're not worthless, and you know that you're worthy of love. And sure, you may need to reflect if, well, did I do something wrong? But that self-love and those boundaries are going to keep you safe, and you won't take that on in the same way. And that's an extreme example, but there's very, very subtle ways and very, very subtle situations where we just take on things that aren't necessarily true, that aren't necessarily love, that aren't necessarily ours to take on, because we don't know. We haven't practiced saying no before. We don't even know that we're capable of saying no. And those boundaries will protect you. Because even if that person's screaming at you and they're putting all they've got into you, and you're not getting angry or frustrated or triggered or upset, and you're just going, nah man, that's your stuff. That is not my stuff. That's your problem. That's how you feel. That's not how I feel. And you just hold with that self-love and those boundaries in place, then it can't get to you. It can't get into you. It can't affect you in the same way. You're not going to be feeling rubbish and depressed and like you can't get out of bed for the next week. You're not going to be feeling energetically drained in the same way, because you've protected yourself with those boundaries, and by not having any judgment, because you can't be judging the thing that you're just holding and setting the boundary with. It just needs to be very simple, very calm. No, that's yours and this is me, and you can keep what is yours and I will keep what is mine. I respect that you have the right to behave in any way that you choose to behave, because we can't control other people. We can't change how other people are reacting or responding, or what it is that they're trying to throw at us, or how it is that they're blowing up at us or getting upset with us or whatever. That's their prerogative. That is what they are choosing to do with their free will. And when you really come to accept that, then it becomes very simple, a lot more simple anyway, to observe the world and what's happening around you and what other people are doing and how they're responding and how they're reacting and what they're saying and what they're doing, and just go, that's nice, that's yours, that's your experience. And I'm not attempting to invalidate or validate your experience. I'm just here having my experience. And does your experience, or what you are energetically sending my way, match with what is part of my reality, match with those standards that I hold myself in? Does that you are projecting and sending out into your environment match and equal the self-love that I contain in my field and that I'm holding myself in? And if it does meet those boundaries and it does meet those standards, and it is perhaps about love, and it is perhaps about sharing with you and communing with you and raising you up and allowing you to raise other up, then it's okay. It will just come through those boundaries and it will reach you. But if it's not about love and it's about trying to drag you down or trying to terrorize love or destroy something that's beautiful, and you aren't charged about it, and you are full of love, and you can feel and you sense and you know your reality and you know what is truth and what is not truth, but mostly you're affirming what is truth, then it can't get to you. It can't access you in the same way. But you need to be creating that environment. It's like you set the scene. You have this internal environment that kind of protects you and keeps you safe and keeps you protected from anything that's not meeting those standards, not meeting those boundaries that you have set. So on a physical level, in the physical world and in your physical experience, that might look like learning to say no and learning to accept that it's okay to say no, that you're allowed to say no, that you don't have to just accept anything and everything that is thrown your way. You're allowed to send energy back. You're allowed to not engage in things that others are attempting to get you to engage in. And you're allowed to walk your own path and to go your own way. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. It may mean learning how to stand up for yourself. And again, with no judgment, but just saying, we're not doing that anymore. That's not appropriate, or that doesn't make me feel good. That doesn't fit with the reality that I'm attempting to create for myself, and I'm not going to engage in that anymore. Again, with no judgment at all, and not trying to degrade other people's realities or other people's experiences, just very simply and very calmly knowing ourselves. It's like you come to know who you are and what you're about and what you stand for and what you believe in and what you will and will not engage in. And you learn to become okay with that the more you practice this. Again, at first it's going to feel a bit like, oh, I don't really know where those boundaries should be, and should I just cut this person out of my life, and do I build a brick wall and not let anyone in? But it's not about that, and it doesn't have to be about that. You're going to have to play with it. But these boundaries there's like a semi-permeable membrane. It's not a brick wall. It's not about walling out the world and walling out other people and not letting anything in and not engaging in anything and not having an exchange with life. It's about developing this really lovely semi-permeable membrane that just very naturally allows in that which is love and that which does serve and that which raises you up and that which allows you to raise other up. And it very naturally invites in those things which nourish and nurture life, nourish and nurture love. And it works the other way as well. Your boundaries don't lock you in and keep all of your love and all of your light and all of your experience just for you, because again, that's not the way to have a really fulfilling and rich life where you get to share with others and engage with others. That's walling yourself in and becoming a bit of a clam, and I don't think that you're going to have a very fulfilling or satisfying life if that's the way that you choose to live. It's about setting your boundaries in such a way that you allow your love to overflow and you allow your love to be shared with others, but not in a way that others are able to bleed your energy and bleed your love. It's not like, okay, anyone can come on the teat and suck me dry because I've got all this love that I want to give. If the self-love is there and the boundaries are in place, then that semi-permeable membrane will kind of ensure that the ones who receive your love and the ones who partake of your love and the ones who are able to exchange and be in some kind of a dance with you are deserving of it because they meet those boundaries. They meet that set of standards. They're clear enough, they're loving enough, they're selfless enough, their motives are clear enough, and so they can share with you and you can be shared with them. And when that's the case, and that's where your boundaries are set, and that's how you're allowing yourself to be shared with others and you're allowing life to be shared with you, then this experience that I'm assuming a lot of you are having of engaging with people or engaging with world and feeling exhausted at the end of it, feeling like you've been sucked dry and feeling like you're a bit dirty and you've been a bit tainted by the experience is going to cease. because everything that's allowed, everything that's getting in, is going to be pure enough and clear enough to affirm your self-loving reality and to actually feed that and to fuel that. And instead of you walking into a room full of people who are having a difficult time and them being able to just take energy from you and take love from you until they feel better and to make themselves feel better and to prop themselves up so they're feeling okay, but then you're feeling really drained and exhausted and like you've got nothing left to give, that won't happen. People will only be receiving of your love if they are worthy of receiving of your love. And that doesn't mean that you become cold and you stop caring about people. You can still love them, but it's not about just letting yourself, again, be bled dry and letting yourself just feed and fuel whoever and whatever is in the environment. And that takes practice. So it's going to be something that, again, you're going to need to consciously work on. What is appropriate? What isn't appropriate? And you're going to need to work on that self-love and that self-nurture and that self-care that allows you to be really honest and to be really real about what it is that is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And then you practice that, you grow it, you develop it, you integrate it, and you start living from that space, and people will respond to you differently. It's definitely been my experience. I used to be terrible with boundaries. I would just take care of anyone, and I'd feed anyone, and I'd prop anyone up, and I'd love everyone, and I didn't care where they were at. They could just come in and they could dump, and I would give, and I felt awful all the time. And even the responses that I'd get from people in the street, just strangers, their responses and their energetic projections and their physical projections and what they would throw at me, it was horrendous, and I couldn't go anywhere without feeling exhausted and depleted and like I'd been taken advantage of. And then I realized that I wasn't setting standards, I wasn't setting boundaries, and I wasn't saying that that's not okay and commanding respect in that way. Not commanding respect in a, well, you just go away and screw you and you're not worthy here. Not in a judgmental way, but in a filling myself up with love and respect kind of way. And then commanding that level of respect from anyone who wanted to interact with me. And I didn't have to say anything. It wasn't about saying to the strangers in the street, you can't treat me like that because I respect myself too much. It was in, and it has become, in the energy that I hold, in the space that I hold, the space that I take with me everywhere that I go, where people can feel that I respect myself and that I love myself and that I care about myself. And so when they even try to project any of that stuff at me, any of that degradation, any of that silly human stuff that people carry on with, it's got nowhere to go. It can't get in because nothing in my energy field is resonating with that. And energetically, because I hold myself to a certain level of respect and to a certain level of standards and clarity and love, that which they project at me, which does not meet those standards and that level of clarity and love, can't come in. It just can't, because it's got no way to get in. But if I didn't respect myself and I didn't love myself and I had a stream of self-loathing running through my experience of myself, then anyone who attempted to project that at me in my external environment, if they wanted to throw that at me energetically, then it would get in, because that's where my standard is set. That's where my boundary is set, and that's what I'm saying is okay. I treat myself like this. I treat myself like I'm worthless. I treat myself like I'm not deserving of respect. I don't treat myself with much love, so you're free to do that. You're free to treat me in that way. There's nothing here to stop you from treating me in that way. And they will. That's just, unfortunately, in this current day and age, that's what people do. They feel bad about themselves, so they want to drag other people down and make them feel bad about themselves, which for some twisted reason makes them feel better about themselves. It doesn't make sense, but that's what people are doing, whether consciously or unconsciously. They're taking their bad feelings and their bad thoughts and projecting them outwards at other people so that other people have to deal with this and other people have to feel this, and I feel pain, you feel pain because I feel pain, I want you to feel pain, and then I can feel less pain. And they're constantly externalizing their inner reality, and for most people that inner reality is not about love, it's not about nurture, it's not about care, it's not about health. That inner reality is about pain and suffering and depression and anger and jealousy and degradation and feeling worthless. And so they project that out into their environment. And if you don't have your boundaries in place and you aren't energetically proclaiming what is and is not acceptable and what is and is not appropriate, then all of that energy, that thought, that feeling, all of that which is being projected out into the external environment is just going to come straight in. If that person feels unworthy and they shoot that unworthiness out into the environment and you feel unworthy, then that person's unworthiness is being told that it's allowed to be here. That particular feeling is being told that it's allowed to reside in here. Well, you feel like that, you do that to yourself, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to do that to you as well. But if you love yourself and you care about yourself and you nurture yourself and you respect yourself and you know yourself to be worthy and you know yourself to be deserving and you know yourself to be loved, then if that person's unworthiness is projected out into the environment, nothing in you is going to resonate with that energy, with that thought, with that feeling, so it will not be able to get in. It will not be able to degrade you and to drag you down in the same way, because it just won't be able to get in. But it's your standards, it's your boundaries, it's your kind of set of conditions that you have with yourself, it's the environment, it's the relationship that you have with yourself needs to be setting those boundaries all the time. And if your relationship with yourself is really shoddy, and for a lot of you it is, and that's okay. That's just, again, the state that the world is in. We're not taught, we're not told, we're not encouraged to love ourselves. We're not encouraged to take care of ourselves and to nurture ourselves and to respect ourselves. That isn't something that's taught to us. And in fact, a lot of people will call you all sorts of names. And you love yourself. You're full of yourself. Who do you think you are? If you do love yourself, and you just got to be okay with that and not judge that and keep holding your space and keep holding the love that you have in here, and it can't affect you. But it's very much frowned upon currently in the majority of society, not in all pockets. There are some pockets where it is really encouraged, and that's really lovely, and we want to see more of that. So it's okay if your relationship with yourself is not yet a great one. Use this as motivation and as fuel to start developing a healthy relationship with yourself, so that you can have a different experience, you can have a different kind of life. You can have a different relationship with yourself and with other people, and you can start to set these standards and set these boundaries, and you can begin to choose to only engage with that in life which is uplifting and which is about upliftment and which is open to you uplifting it and raising it up. And that's how you create a healthy and loving and fulfilling and satisfying life for yourself, instead of having a life that's about degradation and being bled dry and feeling exhausted and feeling depleted all of the time and feeling unworthy and feeling like you don't deserve anything good. And this is how you overcome that. And you've got to put conscious attention into it for as long as it takes. And then allow the love, allow the self-love to take over, and then just keep feeding that self-love. Self-love isn't something that you do once or that you set up once and then that's it, you've got it for life. Because again, everything in the external environment, not everything, but a lot of the things in the external environment that are being projected out and at you are going to attempt to degrade that self-love and to convince you that you are worthless and that you can't do it and that you aren't good enough and that you don't deserve love. And these things are going to attempt to drag you down in that way so that you'll let them in and you'll be a part of that fear pattern again, and you'll enter back into that stream of degradation and depletion and depression and all of the not so positive things that are happening out there. So it's something that you've got to constantly work at. The self-love is something that you've got to be constantly choosing and constantly filling yourself up with and constantly making the most prominent aspect of your reality. And then you let that bleed out and to create these really strong self-loving boundaries that are always set at unconditional love and above. And you only let in energy and you only engage physically with that which is about unconditional love and above. And you only send out and share with others and with the environment that which is about unconditional love and above, because these boundaries work both ways. That semi-permeable membrane is going to help to filter the energy which comes in and set the standards and the boundaries for the energy that's coming in, but it's also going to ensure that you're not taking your bad feelings and how you're feeling that day if it's not about love, and it's going to stop you from projecting that out into your environment as well. So it's going to help you to not be one of those people that goes, I feel bad, I want you to feel bad. I feel rubbish, and so I'm going to put this rubbish into the environment and hope that someone else picks it up for me. It's going to stop you from being one of those people, which is wonderful. It means that you won't be abusive of your relationship with other people and your relationship with life. It means that you get to uplift and only bring love to everything and everyone that you engage with, which is wonderful. And it has to work both ways. You can't be saying to the external environment that you have to treat me well and you have to love me and you have to only put unconditional love into me, but I'm going to project all of my fear and all of my hatred and all of my self-loathing and all of my depression into the environment and hope that someone else picks it up. It doesn't work like that. You violate your own boundaries when you do that, and you let in that not so positive energy from the external environment when you do that. So you need to become accountable. This self-love thing is very much about becoming accountable for yourself, becoming accountable for your feelings, for your experiences, for your thoughts, for your reactions, for your energetic field, for your physical health, for how you take care of yourself, how you take care of others, how you don't take care of yourself. It's becoming accountable for all of that, taking responsibility for all of that and doing something with it. Loving it, loving all of your experience and turning it into love so that it all becomes about love. It all becomes transformed and transmuted into love and into an expression of love. But you can only do that if you're being honest about what's going on, and if you, it's an important part of humility to get to a space where you don't want to project your stuff out anymore and you want to take responsibility for it. And you don't want other people to suffer because you're suffering. You want other people to be raised up and to have their experience regardless of how you're feeling. And you do that by taking responsibility for how you're feeling and having that semi-permeable membrane that makes sure that it's only unconditional love that's being shared both ways, only unconditional love that's being received. So no more picking up the negativity of the room. You'll still be able to feel when there's negativity around, and you'll still be able to feel, if you're an empath, you'll still be able to feel how other people are feeling, but you won't be taking it on as your own experience. You won't be taking it on for you then to process it out as though it's your own. You'll be able to feel it, and from that space of holding unconditional love and above, I feel what you're going through. I feel your experience. I feel that this is what's happening for you. And I'm open to unconditional love and above. I share unconditional love. And it's by holding that person in unconditional love and not trying to take what is theirs and make it your own, and not trying to take what is yours and make it theirs. Just holding that space of self-love, holding that space of unconditional love that's going to allow that person to feel how they feel, to take responsibility for how they're feeling, because we all need to be accountable for how we feel. It doesn't work for us to be having someone else take on everything that we're feeling so we never have to deal with it. We never grow that way. We never learn that way. We all need to be accountable for how we're feeling. And in that, we all need to be able to respect how other people are feeling and to let them go through their feeling journey so that they can actually heal. People don't actually heal if they're having a big feeling and you sweep in and take that big feeling from them and just walk away and leave them without it. They'll feel better, but they're not going to actually heal. They're not going to actually grow. People are given their experiences for a reason, or people create their experiences for a reason and have feelings for a reason, and it's by feeling through and really healing not on their own. You can support, and not by themselves, not in isolation. Again, your love can still create a really healing space for them, but they need to go through that process internally. So as an empath, it's going to allow you, and as a healer, it's going to allow you to create a better kind of service for the ones that come into your life, because you're okay and you're not degrading yourself and you're not minimizing your energetic experience. You're feeling what the other person is going through, not taking it on as your own, and you're able to provide the flavor of love that that person needs so that they can go through their healing experience. Without interfering, it's not even something you have to think about. When the boundaries are set at unconditional love and above, and you're full of self-love, it's not something you have to think about. It's just something that very naturally flows out from you. And you're going to find that people are going to be able to go through healing crises around you without it dragging you down, and without them being kind of depleted or degraded at the end of it because they haven't actually processed through that energy on their own. They will be given permission and given the space to go through the healing that they need to go through and actually grow and learn through that experience of healing. So it's not overly interfering, which is what a lot of healers like to do as well. They see that as their great quality, that they're able to feel what other people feel and take it on, and then the other person feels good and the other person feels happy, but they feel like rubbish. And the other person hasn't learnt anything. They've just learnt that when I feel bad, I go and find a really loving person and I dump all of my feelings onto them, and then I feel better. And nothing permanent comes from that. That's robbing that person of their experience and degrading yourself in that process. And what that does is it energetically sets up this kind of invitation to anyone that has bad feelings, anyone that feels bad, dump them here and I will take care of your feelings for you and you will feel better. So every time you leave the house and every time you step into a room, every depressed person, every anxious person, every grumpy person, every person who hates themselves, all of that, whatever it is that they're feeling is being invited into your energy field, because that's the boundary that you've set, that's the standard that you've set. And you're not going to be able to maintain a clear energetic field. You're not going to be able to maintain any level of health and healing and wholesomeness and holisticness if that's what's going on. You're going to be constantly being degraded, constantly dragged down, and constantly robbing other people of actually going through the healing journeys that they need to go through. So it's a really important part of healing, of being a healer, but being in any kind of role, any kind of job where you work with people, whether you're a hairdresser or you work in a shop or you work in a health food store or you're a construction worker or you're a naturopath or you're a doctor or you're a chiropractor or you're a nurse or a mum or a teacher, whatever it is that you do, whatever it is that you engage in, this is the kind of space you need to be holding so that you can be healthy and you can be full and you can be strong and you can be in love, and the people around you can experience love, but actual love, actual unconditional love. But they're given the space to go through, because we're all on a journey of transformation. We're all on a journey of learning. We're all growing. We're all meant to be going through this developmental process. So our responsibility as ones who are aware of that is to allow other people to go through this healing journey, to undertake this journey of transformation and to be changed and to have experiences and to fall down and to get back up again and to feel elated and to feel depressed and to let them grow through having those experiences. We can't take that away from other people, and if we do, we're getting in the way of their evolution. We're interfering with their process of discovering themselves and of growing and healing and becoming the best versions of themselves that they can become. And I'm sure you wouldn't want anyone to do that to you. Sure, while you're in the midst of the feelings, there might be part of you that wishes that someone would swoop in and take away all of your feelings for you and make you feel better. But you know, I hope you know, that that's not how you bring about personal and permanent ongoing change. It's only by being with everything that you're experiencing and being with everything that you're feeling and going through that whole process of feeling everything intensely that is yours and raising it all up into love that you're actually going to be able to grow and to heal and to be transformed. It's not about being wrapped in blankets or wrapping other people in blankets so that they don't bump into anything as they navigate their way through life. You got to bump into stuff. You got to fall down. You got to experience the highs. You got to experience the lows. You got to feel it all. You got to experience it all. And you got to learn how to love yourself and nurture yourself and be present with yourself no matter what it is that you're experiencing. For too many of us, when we feel bad or we're feeling depressed or we're having a negative emotion moving through our body or we're physically struggling, like we feel unwell or our hair's falling out or our thyroid's acting up or our gut's bloated or whatever it is, when we feel bad, that's when we begin to lose that self-love. That's when we begin to think less of ourselves, and that's when we allow our boundaries to slip. So a really important part of this is getting that self-love so ingrained and so being so filled with that self-love that no matter what you're feeling, no matter what you're going through, no matter what's happening, no matter what's going on outside of you, no matter what's going on inside of you, you are still there for yourself and with yourself. You still love yourself. You are still your best friend and your ongoing companion, cheering yourself on. Yeah, you can get through this. Yeah, it feels awful, but we can grow through this, and you got this, and I'm here, and I'm cheering you on. And that's the kind of relationship you need to learn to have with yourself. So no one else is going to be able to do that for you. And it means that even when you're going through a lot and you're feeling really bad and you're feeling depressed or you're feeling like the world sucks, then regardless of how you're feeling, because that self-love is still in place and you're still there with yourself, your boundaries can still be set at unconditional love and above. Because a lot of the time, what I see a lot of is that people spiral. When something starts to go wrong and they start to feel bad and they start to feel like life sucks or something's playing up on a physical level, they stop loving themselves, they stop taking care of themselves. And because they stop taking care of themselves and they stop loving themselves, their boundaries come down. And they start to say to the external environment, I feel gross, I feel bad. Bring all your gross and badness to me and dump it in here. And they begin to project their experience of how bad they feel out, but they take on energy from their external environment as well, which just adds to that load. It just compounds it. So you're already feeling bad, you're already feeling rubbish, you're already feeling degraded and depleted and like things are going wrong, and then you open yourself up to how everyone else is feeling and everything else that's floating around in the environment, and it comes in, and then you're left feeling like, oh my goodness, I feel terrible, I can never get through this, I feel so bad, and it just makes it so much worse. And then you just have to keep chipping away until you can find that self-love again, and that self-care and that self-nurture, and process through your feelings and process through all of the stuff that you've taken on, so that you can begin to have those boundaries in place again. And it's not the most graceful way to go. It's not smooth that way. That growth isn't continuous. You're growing a bit, and then it's very natural in the growth process for there to be ups and little downs. It's perfectly fine. And then you come up again, and then you drop a little bit because you come across something else that is painful or that sucks or whatever. But then you grow again. But if the self-love isn't in place, then it's not going to look like it should. There should be a general incline. There should be a general increase in the transformation and the healing and the level of love that's experienced. But if the self-love isn't in place, then it's going to look more like this, and it's going to end up kind of being leveled out, and not much growth is going to happen. So if you've got the self-love and you're on the up, oh, I've hit something bad, I don't love myself anymore, crash in the environment, crash in all of the negative experiences, and then, oh, you slowly inch yourself back up, but you're not really making progress that way, you're just leveling the field. It's that self-love, that self-nurture, that self-respect that's going to allow and ensure that although you will have little dips, it's inevitable, you're on a steady incline. You're steadily improving, you're steadily growing, you're steadily developing and evolving and discovering. So those boundaries are such a vital component of that, so important in being able to consistently and constantly move forward without being bowled over by the external environment, and without adding to the pain and the anguish that already exists in the external environment. Taking responsibility for how you feel and what's going on for you, and doing something with it, and letting other people have their experiences and deal with and process through how they're feeling without you probing and overly getting involved in anything. It allows you to hold a space of self-respect everywhere that you go, so that people will stop treating you in a way that you don't approve of, in a way that makes you feel gross or makes you feel sick. Like when I go out into the public now, people don't even try to project at me the way that they used to, because I won't let them. I won't invite that energy in. So when they attempt to whack me up with a big ball of self-hatred or whatever else that they might be projecting, and it bounces back at them, and it hits them, and they go, oh man, that wasn't a good idea, won't do that again. Eventually they just stop. They see that there's no point. You're not taking on what they're projecting at you. You're not going to just make them feel better for the sake of making them feel better, even though it degrades you. You're about self-respect, and you're about self-love, and you're happy to hold a space of love and healing for that person as they process through what they're processing through. But if they attempt to project it at you and make it about you, then that boundary is like, nah, not doing that, not taking that on. You got to deal with your own stuff, buddy. And you'll have a different experience. So I guess a really simple way to start working with the boundaries is just to, so we'll just get really present, and I'll just run you through really simple process just to get a feel for what those boundaries can feel like. So we just get really present. And again, I just want you to take a few deep breaths into your body. Just letting yourself be here exactly as you are, not trying to be anything else or be anywhere else. And just bring a really strong awareness into the heart center. in this space, I just want you to feel your physical body. Feel every part, all the way through, every cell in the physical body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Just being with the physical self. It's like breathing awareness into the physical body and expanding that awareness out through the emotional body. Just becoming aware, being still, just being with the experience. Out through the mental body, becoming aware of the mind beyond the brain, the mind itself, which is a body in itself, encompassing and surrounding and moving through and interpenetrating the emotional and physical bodies. And just expanding out again to include the spirit self, the spiritual aspect of yourself, the part of you that exists beyond physical form. I want you to feel yourself grounded into the planet. It's like feeling a grounding cord, like roots coming straight out through the bottom of the feet into the core of the earth, just holding you here. And I want you to call in and imagine and feel a golden bubble of protection surrounding and encompassing the outside of your energy field. So feel yourself getting really big and taking up as much space as you can, and then feel, imagine, envision that golden bubble holding you. It's holding you in a golden bubble. This is your protection. This is like a barrier, the semi-permeable membrane that separates you from your external environment. And I want you to affirm that this golden bubble is your boundaries, which are set at unconditional love and above. I set my boundaries at unconditional love and above. And just keep affirming that and feel the strength of that golden bubble becoming more apparent. And then just know it to be so. Feel yourself, filling yourself up with self-love, which is the foundation for these boundaries. I love myself, I'm here, I'm with you. I respect myself, I am worthy. I deserve joy. I'm okay. Whatever it is that you need to tell yourself to allow yourself to feel loved and feel supported by you. I set my boundaries at unconditional love and above. And you can take this space with you everywhere that you go, wherever you are, before you enter a room, before you drive in the car, before you leave somewhere, just check and sense that golden bubble. Can you feel it there? Is that your boundary set at unconditional love and above? Are you present with yourself? Are you loving yourself? And spend some time just feeling into, and you can make a list or whatever it is that feels appropriate to you of things that are appropriate, things that you accept into your energy field, and things that are no longer appropriate. And then you just practice that and do whatever it is that you need to do to make that so. Whether that's standing up for yourself, ooh, or saying no, or just energetically affirming something, or energetically setting a boundary, or stating that this is what is okay, this is what is acceptable, that is not acceptable. But feel into it, have a ponder, Do whatever it is that you need to do to become really clear about what it is that you welcome into your energy field and into your physical life experience, and what is not acceptable. And then just keep affirming that, keep choosing that in every moment, as often as you can. And this is this golden bubble of protection, and these boundaries set of unconditional love and above that you can take with you everywhere you go. And let yourself have a different human experience. Let yourself experience life in a different way.